Chapter 7, The Young Miner Faction, 1. Guangdu sighed as he looked at the pile of snow he had pushed to one side. It's much more than the snow piled up here. And the consequences of that debt were incomparable to the inconvenience of piled-up snow. We originally had 3 sword squads. As we gradually reduced in size, they've now been consolidated into one. The number of servants and maids has also been cut by more than half. From what I've heard, even now our finances are quite difficult. Really, one mudfish. Guangdu couldn't finish his sentence and just sighed. In the end, Seo Jung's statement that the entire clan is struggling because of me referred to very realistic and direct consequences. The monthly wages must be delayed then. The monthly wages haven't been delayed yet. The clan head has made sure to prioritize our wages above all else. Even so, wages that should have increased probably didn't, and as our clan declined, the advantages of being from here would have diminished. In the end, I had been eating away at their future. All right, let's say I muddied the waters. But why are you making such a fuss in the evening? We have to clean up when the person who lent us money is coming. I'm busy, so let's talk later. Guangdu ran off. I felt something odd about how hastily he ended the conversation. Just then, someone spoke from behind. The young master of the young miner faction beat up brother Guangdu. I turned around to see a maid standing there. Was her name Song He? Guangdu had once told me she was a very kind girl. That bastard beat Guangdu. The unpleasant face from yesterday came to mind. That bastard dared to hit Guangdu? Yes. He couldn't do anything before. But now that our clan has declined, he's throwing his weight around in all sorts of ways. Why did he hit Guangdu? He said there was trash left in the courtyard. He said lazy servants should be beaten. But that trash was thrown by the young master himself. He just wanted to beat our brother Guangdu. I could understand why Guangdu was making such a fuss about cleaning so late in the evening. Song He's eyes were filled with tears as she spoke indignantly. I could feel that she liked Guangdu a lot. Was I there too by any chance? At that, Song He looked at me almost glaring. Her action was already an answer. You were drunk and giggling. Damn it. Fucking idiot bastard. I felt more anger towards Byok Ridan than towards young Jiagang who had done the beating. Why are you telling me this? Yesterday, brother Guangdu said that young master is changing for the better. That he thinks he can trust you now. I still can't trust you yet. But I believe in brother Guangdu's words. With those final words, Song He's courage, displayed for the first time, seemed to run out. With a reddened face, she bowed her head and ran off. Tears must have blurred her vision as she almost fell, but fortunately, she didn't. When I turned my head, I could see Guangdu busily sweeping in the distance. Suddenly, I felt a lump in my throat. Even after suffering such a thing, you've been treating me so well. That night, people from the young miner faction visited. With over 20 people including guards barging in all at once, everyone was busy receiving them. Originally, visiting another clan late at night was a major breach of etiquette. It would never happen unless one had contempt for the other party or was deliberately disrespecting them. Moreover, if one had to come late unavoidably, it was common sense to come with minimal personnel. Young Jiajiol walked in leisurely and greeted my father. Ha ha ha, have you been well, clan leader Byok? You must have had a hard journey in the night, faction leader Yang. My father greeted him with a pleasant expression. I heard that in the past, he used to call my father Great Hero Byok and come running barefoot, but now his form of address had changed, and he walked with his hands behind his back, swaggering. The simplest way to judge someone in relationships is to see them in difficult situations. Yang Jiagang was among the group following Yang Jiaqiol. When he spotted me, he pointed to his eyes and shook his fist. It seemed to mean I should stop glaring. I can tolerate disrespect towards me, but did this bastard hit Guangdu? Yang Jiaqiol spoke to my father without being asked. You know great hero Peng Mundu, one of the Peng family from Hebei, don't you? Of course, I do. This time I've joined hands with the Peng family to start a new venture. I was on my way back from meeting him. Ha ha ha. Oh. Is that so? I put in a good word about our clan leader Byok to great hero Peng. Did he really? I doubt it. Faction leader Yang Jiaqiol, like his son, didn't make a good first impression. In my previous life, I met all sorts of leaders in the martial world. From leaders of huge factions as cold and smooth as marble to leaders of small, obscure factions frantically trying to get noticed. Therefore, I can pride myself on knowing more than anyone about those close to power. Among them, those who gave a bad first impression invariably acted in ways that explained that feeling, and I had a premonition that faction leader Young would be exactly that type. Thank you for your consideration. Ha ha ha. Don't you know? I'm the only one looking out for our clan leader Biok. In every glance and action of his showing off, I could sense an undisguisable vulgar arrogance. Well, let's discuss the details inside. Let's do that. My father and Yang Jiaiqiol went inside the building. Several of us, including me, had come out to greet Yang Jiaiqiol, but he went inside without even glancing in our direction. Well, this is better actually. If someone like that tried to act like an elder, it would really be annoying. Seo Jung, the sword squad chief, received the martial artists from the young minor faction. Fortunately, the leader of their martial artists wasn't disrespectful to Seo Jung. Rather, he treated him with respect and courtesy. I had heard the reason for this from Guangdu. There had been various incidents in the process of the 3 sword squads being reduced to 1. When the family fortunes declined, the other 2 sword squad chiefs left for other factions that offered more money. But Seo Jung never left and remained loyal to my father. At that time, Seo Jung was reportedly the person most wanted by other factions. They offered him amounts he couldn't earn in a lifetime, but Seo Jung rejected them all and stayed with our family. Everyone knew this fact, which was why they respected him. Hey, we meet again. Yesterday's unpleasant fellow sauntered over to me. Not knowing that my feelings towards him had changed to anger. The internal energy in my dungeon stirred. The desire to beat him like a dog welled up. If I were at my peak, I would have started by smashing his jaw first. But for the sake of my father and the family, I decided to endure it once. If the reason for beating him came to light, it might circle back and harm Guangdu. Guangdu, I'm sorry. Let's just endure it this one time. Not knowing my thoughts, Guangdu was trying hard not to make eye contact with the guy, keeping his head bowed to one side. Seeing that sight, my anger flared up again. Damn it. If I stay any longer, I'll really cause trouble. Since you're here, eat and go. I spoke as gently as I could to young Jiaigang and just turned away. Then I heard sneering from behind. These beggar bastards sure have strong pride. Listen, kid, cut the crap and pay back the money. How long do you think it'll take to pay back 20,000 Niang? 20,000 Niang. An amount sufficient to bring a small to medium-sized faction to financial ruin. What kind of trouble did he cause to need to borrow such a large sum of 20,000 Niang? Maybe I should just sell you off to the Ronin market. Well, I doubt I'd even get 10 Niang for you. Since everyone was present, the martial artists of our main house hardened their expressions. But they couldn't step in to stop or reprimand him. The one they served was no better than him. Without turning back, I asked. The debt isn't to you personally, is it? What the fuck? Do you still think you're the heir of Shandong's top faction? I know I'm not. What? I know I'm trash. Seo Jung, who was watching, had his eyes sparkle. It was a moment when my uncertain change gained a bit more strength. He must have seen me admitting this to someone for the first time. I didn't exchange any more words and started walking away briskly when I heard a pitiful scream from behind. Kayak! I turned around to see young Jiaigang forcibly trying to embrace Song He, who was standing to one side. If your trash master won't play with me, at least you should. Chapter 8, The Young Minor Faction, 2. At that moment, Guangdu stepped in to stop him. Young master, she's still a child. Young Jiaigang's eyes instantly turned fierce. You lowly bastard, how dare you grab me? In his urgency, Guangdu had grabbed Yang Jiaigang's sleeve. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. Guangdu quickly backed away. As if finding new prey, young Jiaigang released Song He, whom he had been holding. Even in a situation where he didn't know what would happen to him, Guangdu felt relieved. On the other hand, Song He was more anxious than when she had been grabbed. Can't that damned bastard see the tender exchange of emotions between them, caring for each other? Well, if he could see it, he wouldn't be acting like this. Oh? Come to think of it, aren't you? Yang Jiaigang seemed to recognize Guangdu belatedly, then suddenly spat on the ground. An ominous question followed. What's this filth? When Guangdu hesitated to answer, young Jiagang glared at him viciously and pressed on. You bastard! Answer before I beat you to death. What is this? I asked. It's spit. Why is something like this on the courtyard floor? Didn't I tell you before? To clean thoroughly. I'll clean it up right away. As Guangdu tried to wipe the spit with his sleeve, Yang Jiagang firmly stepped on Guangdu's hand. Ah! What are you trying to do, you bastard? What? I'm trying to clean it up. You fool. It came from the mouth, so you should clean it with your mouth. At that moment, Guangdu's face hardened. The expressions of the main house martial artists watching also hardened simultaneously. Especially Seo Jung, who was revealing a cold chill. He must be deliberating when to step in. Worried that if he intervened carelessly, the guy might go even more berserk. Anyway, even the young minor faction martial artists frowned at his behavior. Song He ran out. Brother, I'll clean it. I'll do it. Guangdu shouted angrily. What are you saying? Quickly, go to the clan head and ask if he needs anything. Hurry. I said go. He was trying to get Song He out of this situation somehow. Song He bit her molar and looked at me. Guangdu's gaze followed Song He's to me. Naturally, the gazes of other martial artists followed as well. Finally, I spoke. Filth should be cleaned up. Everyone's expressions twisted dramatically. Especially Seo Jung's disappointment was the greatest. The expression that started from him, saying I knew it, spread to the general martial artists of the Sword Squad. Song He's eyes, full of sadness, seemed to be saying, I told you, didn't I? That I don't trust you, young master. Only naive brother Guangdu was fooled. You bad person. Guangdu, the person in question, had his eyes redden with disappointment, but then calmly said, Yes. I'll clean it up. Guangdu bowed his head and was about to stick out his tongue. Just as Seo Jung, unable to bear it any longer, was about to step in, I spoke a step ahead. Not you. What? The one who spat should clean it up. I gestured with my chin towards Yang Jiagang and said, You. Clean it up right now. You bastard. Where did you learn to spit in someone else's house and act like this? You clean it up. With that mouth of yours. The expressions of the Biok Sword Clan martial artists, including Seo Jung, brightened. I had said what they wanted to say on their behalf. Of course, Yang Jiagang's face crumpled like a crushed piece of paper. You bastard, I heard you got your head beaten by a woman. Looks like you've gone crazy. Ignoring his words, I went and helped Guangdu up. Are you all right? Why are you doing this? It's fine, I can clean it up. Why should you clean this? Young master, please don't do this. The next moment, I changed my tone. This was what I was second best at, after martial arts. As the heir of the Biok Sword Clan, I order you. Step back. My eyes and tone were filled with heavy dignity. Yes, young master. Unable to disobey, Guangdu stepped back. I spoke to Seo Jung in the same tone. I will handle this matter, so please watch until the end. Seo Jung, who had been staring at me blankly for a moment, bowed his head. Sword Squad Chief Seo Jung, I will obey your command. The Sword Squad martial artists were shocked. Not only had Seo Jung never shown such a respectful attitude to Biok Aridan before, but they also never expected him to say he would obey an order. The Sword Squad martial artists hurriedly bowed their heads following Seo Jung. Yang Jiagang sneered, imitating my voice. I order as the heir of the Biok Sword Clan. Fat. Give 2 more orders and I might die of fear. You childish bastard, stop putting on airs. Ha ha ha. He looked around at the young minor faction martial artists as if to say, isn't that right? A few of them forced smiles. I spoke firmly, as if giving an ultimatum. Cleaning it with that filthy mouth would only make the ground dirtier. Forget it. I'll give you a chance. If you apologize properly, we'll forget this happened. Would he apologize? I knew he wouldn't, but I threw it out there for later. I clearly gave him a chance to end this nicely. And if I refuse? Then you'll get beaten. Yang Jiagang snorted and approached me. Well then, shall we see the skills of the great Biok Sword Clan heir? This is perfect actually. You don't know how long I've been waiting for this day. You broke, beggarly bastard. I'll turn you into a cripple, so go beg in the marketplace. As soon as he finished speaking, he threw a surprise punch. Of course, I wasn't going to be hit by his fist. He wasn't even an opponent worth using my martial arts on. I lightly dodged and planted my fist in his chin. Thwack! His jaw turned, but he didn't fall. Was my punch weak? Not at all. It was to avoid ending it in one blow. As expected, Yang Jiagang charged at me with fire in his eyes. You bastard! He threw another punch. This time it was a punch infused with internal energy. It could be fatal if it hit, but he was swinging wildly. Yes, this is how a madman should be. Bong! Boom! His internal energy-infused punches cut through the air with threatening sounds. Seo Jung, startled, was about to jump in but stopped. He saw me lightly dodging the guy's attacks. But that wasn't all. My fists flew even more nimbly than my dodges. Thwack! Again, his jaw turned the other way. Thwack! Thwack! Thwack thwack! Consecutive hits landed on his stomach and chest. Though it looked like light hits from the outside, they were strikes that would leave dark bruises. Thwack! 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 My fists were merciless. I aimed more for the body than the face, strikes that would cause less visible damage but more internal injuries. You need to know. Those children will have to live with lifelong scars from what you did as a joke. But you'd never understand no matter how many times I tell you. That's why you're getting beaten. Thwack 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 thwack. By the time the young minor faction martial artists belatedly rushed in to separate us, he was already a mess. It would take at least a few months of recovery just to dress himself. I wanted to destroy him even more, but that couldn't be done. What is the meaning of this? To the protest of the young minor faction leader, I calmly replied. Didn't you see from the beginning? What that bastard did? Telling someone to clean up his spit with their mouth? Is that something a human being does? At those words, the man couldn't say anything. The other young minor faction martial artists were the same. It was something they themselves were too ashamed to face. Yang Jiagang glared at me, his face contorted with pain. His vicious eyes were full of killing intent. Kill him. Kill that bastard. It's an order. The man who received the order was flustered. He hadn't expected an order to kill. At that moment, Seo Jung stepped forward from our side. That order was given in young Master Yang's excited state, so it can be ignored. Think about the consequences that order would bring. As he spoke, he placed his hand on his sword. It was a warning that our side wouldn't stand idle if they tried anything foolish. A tense atmosphere formed between the martial artists on both sides, as if they might draw their swords at any moment. Even if their skills were similar, our side's momentum was much higher. We also had justification on our side. Eventually, the man backed down. Senior, your words are correct. Even without Seo Jung's warning, they couldn't kill the heir of the Biok Sword clan. This matter was for the clan heads to handle. At that moment, Yang Jiagang shook off the hand supporting him. Chang! Unable to contain himself, he drew his sword and charged at me. No! By the time Seo Jung shouted, the guy's sword was already flying towards my chest. Swish! It was a critical moment for the onlookers, but to me, it was a laughable struggle. Even though I only had 5 years of internal energy, I was once the person who held the position of the greatest under heaven. Once again, I lightly dodged the sword and then... crunch! I mercilessly broke his arm. Ah! He screamed as his arm broke. Everyone was shocked by the dangling arm, but my attack didn't stop. I stomped down diagonally on his knee with my foot. Crack! His leg broke like bamboo. The bone protruded and blood splattered. Ah! Despite his agonizing scream, my actions remained cold. Slap 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 slap. I repeatedly slapped his cheeks. Broken teeth flew in all directions. Not just 1 or 2, but over 10 teeth shattered completely. Thud! With the final blow to his stomach, he collapsed. What was initially an injury requiring a month or 2 of recovery had now become an injury needing several years of rehabilitation. I was still showing mercy. In the past, I would have killed him. Because it happened so suddenly, the young minor faction martial artists couldn't stop the situation. Belatedly, they bustled about, saying to press his acupoints, call a doctor, report to the faction leader, guard all the gates. The first person to rush to me was Guangdu. He quickly whispered to me in a voice only I could hear. Are you crazy? What are you going to do if you provoke the young minor faction? What on earth are you thinking? His face, full of worry, looked like it might burst into tears at any moment. He was so urgent that he didn't even have time to thank me. First, get your body out of here. Leave the aftermath to the clan head. If the young faction leader comes out while you're here, it'll be a disaster. Hurry. No. Why? Because then you'll be destroyed in my place. For a moment, Guangdu flinched. That would certainly happen. After all, this all started in the process of stopping the humiliation he was suffering. You're a bit touched right now, aren't you? No, how can you joke at a time like this? I said hurry and go. It seems it's already too late though. I gestured with my chin towards the back. In the distance, the doors of the building were opening, and my father and Yang Jiaiqiu were coming out. Don't worry. I'll make sure to ask them to bury you with me when I die. Guangdu sank down in his place and muttered. Was pretending not to remember all in Act 2. To cause this massive incident. To squeeze the life out of me. Chapter 9, The Young Minor Faction, 3. Yang Jiaiqiu leapt down next to his son. What the hell is going on here? His first emotion upon assessing the situation was not surprise or concern, but anger. I asked what happened here. At his thunderous voice, Yang Jiaigang painfully opened his eyes. Groaning in pain, Yang Jiaigang said, Father, that bastard, tried to kill me. Realizing it was me who had beaten up his son, Yang Jiaiqiu glared at me as if he would kill me. But unable to charge at me directly, he berated his subordinate instead. Is this true? Well. The subordinate hesitated to answer. Slap! Yang Jiaiqiu mercilessly struck his subordinate's cheek. You stupid fool! What were you doing while the heir of the great young minor faction was reduced to this state? As if that wasn't enough to vent his anger, the beating continued. Slap! 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 I could tell. Right now, Yang Jiaiqiu wasn't beating his subordinate. He was beating me. He was demonstrating to my father. Saying that his son could be next. The man being beaten eventually fainted and collapsed. Still not satisfied, Yang Jiaiqiu stomped on the fallen subordinate several times before turning to my father. How do you intend to take responsibility for this? My father looked at me. I calmly looked back at him. I wasn't dejected, nor was I defiant. What did he read in my attitude? It seemed like he would immediately issue a stern reprimand, but my father was calm. First, he asked Seo Jung for the details. What happened? Seo Jung calmly reported what had just occurred. How the guy tried to harass Song He, how he tried to force Guangdu who intervened to do something inhumane, and how I stepped in and said I would let it go if he apologized. Thankfully, he didn't leave out any crucial details. In a normal situation, a father should have been unable to lift his head due to his child's actions, but Yang Jiaiqiu shouted accusingly. You beat my son like this over some worm-like servant and maid? How dare you do this to my son? I don't think we need any further evaluation of him. That statement was enough to understand what kind of person he is. Yang Jiaiqiu threatened me with a fierce demeanor. How do you intend to take responsibility for this incident? If only I could do what I really want to. But I refrained from both fists and words. It wasn't a matter of whether I could beat him or not. Though reluctant, resolving this incident should start with my apology. That's when my father said something unexpected. It seems the young faction leader should be the one taking responsibility. Everyone, including myself, was shocked. My father in the center of attention was not his usual calm and passive self. His aura was sharp and fierce. What did you just say? Not only did young Master Yang infuse his fists with internal energy, but he even drew his sword to try to kill my son. Against an unarmed opponent. Everyone here witnessed it, so I think we have enough witnesses. My father looked around. All our martial artists nodded, while the young minor faction martial artists couldn't say anything. There were too many witnesses to deny or fabricate. My father put more strength into his stern tone. If it were anyone else, I would personally deal out a heavy punishment, but for the sake of faction leader Young's face, I'll forgive it just this once. What? If this incident becomes known in the martial world, wouldn't it bring great ridicule not only to young Master Young but to your entire faction? Yang Jiaqiul's expression twisted viciously. It seemed his anger might explode at any moment. It wouldn't have been strange if he drew his sword right then. What are you trying to do? My father threw the question right back at him. What are you trying to do? The two men's auras clashed. My father was overwhelming him. I had thought my father might have a somewhat timid personality. But that was a misconception stemming from his calm nature. My father was a martial artist. Moreover, he was a rough and rugged martial man exuding masculine energy. Before the question of how strong his martial arts were, this was a matter of a martial artist's temperament. Now I could understand why Seo Jung didn't leave my father. He knew my father's true nature. That he was someone worth pledging loyalty to. Young Jiaqiul ultimately couldn't charge at us. Instead, he expressed his anger in the lowest way possible. Pay back the borrowed money immediately. I will. While it's true that the young minor faction's power had grown much larger than ours, right now they only brought about 20 people. Moreover, young Jiaqiul had never faced my father in combat. With my father coming on so strongly, he didn't have the confidence to fight back. Furthermore, even justification wasn't on their side. The guests are leaving. My father's cold order to expel them. His expression said, sprinkle salt after them. Yang Jiaqiul left with his son and subordinates, breathing heavily in anger. Finally, my father asked me, why did you do it? My father topped off the impression he gave me today. First believing in me, then asking for the reason later. He humiliated our family. He tried to make them do something no human should do. As I spoke, I looked at Guangdu and Songhee. They bowed their heads, looking dazed. They seemed surprised and flustered at being called family. After looking back and forth between me and Guangdu for a moment, my father went into his room without another word. Chief Seo, come in for a moment. Yes, clan head. He's probably trying to come up with countermeasures for this incident. He neither praised nor scolded me. Well, I'll take it as praise. Seo Jung, following my father, glanced back at me. His gaze was closer to favor than reproach. It wasn't just Seo Jung. The Sword Squad martial artists, as well as the maids and servants, all looked at me with fresh eyes. It was the first time since reincarnating as Byok Ridan's son that I properly made eye contact with them. Especially Songhee, who had an expression of gratitude as if she wanted to run and hug me. I approached Songhee and lowered my waist to match her eye level. Were you very scared? No, yes. Don't be afraid that that bastard might harm you again. He's not even worth fearing. Don't worry. From now on, I, and the brothers from the main house here, will protect you. Songhee looked at the Sword Squad martial artists. They smiled and nodded. Those who remained despite low pay were deeply loyal. In other words, it means they are also good people. Thank you, young master. Thank you, uncles. Finally, the tears she had been holding back fell. It must have been the first time she felt such relief living as a maid. Before returning to her room, Songhee whispered to me, I think I can trust you now, young master. After everyone dispersed, only Guangdu and I remained. Perhaps his legs gave out from the tension. Guangdu slumped down. I think I'm going to throw up. Don't throw up. You'll have to clean it up. I grinned at Guangdu's incredulous look. Staring at me intently, Guangdu suddenly asked, Aren't you scared, young master? Why would I be scared? What if the young minor faction attacks? I told you before, didn't I? That currently, the young minor faction is the strongest in Shandong. Did you see the expressions of those young minor faction martial artists earlier? They were disgusted with their master. There won't be many who truly pledge loyalty to him. On the contrary, did you see our Sword Squad people? Still, their numbers are far greater than ours. Battles aren't fought by numbers alone. And war doesn't break out so easily. There might be many things about me you could doubt, but when it comes to war, you can trust me without question. I've spent my entire life on battlefields, after all. Someone as political and calculating as faction leader Young won't move rashly. He'll move when he's certain of victory. even though his son was beaten half-crippled. Yang Jiaqiol didn't even properly examine his son's condition. He wasn't angry because his son was hurt. He was angry because someone hit his son. Isn't that the same thing? It's different. The essence of the anger is very different. He was a selfish man who only thought of himself. I don't understand what you mean. Go and rest. You've had a hard day. As I was about to turn away, Guangdu grabbed me. Young master. What? His pupils were trembling. Thank you for earlier. I could feel the deepest sincerity in that trembling. You're welcome. Never forget it for the rest of your life. Wow. I walked away briskly, leaving him behind. My expression had already turned serious. Based on my long political experience, I was certain he wouldn't move immediately. He would try to find a sure method of revenge or a way to keep his own hands clean. But once he moves, it will be in an incredibly petty and cruel manner. I need to move first, before that happens. Yes, I'll resolve this issue and then quietly focus on training. Chapter 10, The Young Minor Faction, 4. Faction leader Yang is a petty person. He'll never let this go. In response to Lim Yihua's words, Biok Dojin replied. But he won't be able to openly plot revenge over this incident. He's not someone who cares about righteousness. We need to pay back the debt we owe them first. Otherwise, he'll use the debt as an excuse to cause trouble. Biok Dojin nodded. He was well aware of Yang Jiaqiol's true nature. However, he had no way to immediately repay the huge sum of 20,000 Niang. Those who once seemed willing to give even their livers for him are now giving their livers to Yang Jiaqiol. He doesn't blame them. This cold-heartedness ultimately stems from his failure in raising his child properly. Lim Yihua held out a small jewelry box. If we sell this, we should be able to pay off the debt. When Biok Dojin opened it, he found a small blue jade necklace inside. This is? Shocked, Biok Dojin shook his head vigorously. No. Isn't this an heirloom passed down through your family? It's also the thing you cherish most. That's not true. I was just keeping it. If we sell this? Absolutely not. I won't allow it as long as I'm alive. It's just an object. This isn't just an object, it's a memento from your father. It's what you cherish most. What I cherish most is you and Dan. For a moment, Biok Dojin was at a loss for words. He knows well how much his wife loves him, how much she has sacrificed for their child, and how much she can sacrifice. That's why it can't be done. Lim Yihua gently persuaded her husband. This isn't a matter to handle emotionally. Objects can always be bought again. We'll buy it back later. Seeing her husband still unmoved, Lim Yihua changed tactics. Darling, our Dan has come to his senses. What we need to protect isn't this object, but our child. At the mention of their child, Biok Dojin indeed reacted. Do you trust the boy? To Biok Dojin's question, Lim Yihua answered without hesitation. Yes, I do. Even after being deceived so many times. Because he's still our son. Their son had made mistakes and promised to do better many times. But this time felt different from those previous unkept promises. Their son was showing it through actions. She had heard that he had been intensely focused on martial arts training for over 10 days, and today she heard he had risked danger for Guangdu. Biok Dojin sighed. Honestly, I'm not sure. Even today's incident was like that. How did he manage to beat Yang Jiagang when he had only been training in martial arts for a mere 10 days? Wondering if he had learned some dangerous evil technique, he asked Seo Zheng, but was told it wasn't any special martial art, just beating him with his fists. Well, Yang Jiagang was a good-for-nothing anyway, so that's that. It's not just that. His speech and behavior have changed, and even his eyes have become calmer. He must have finally grown up. Biok Dojin eventually nodded at Lim Yihua's words. Yes, that's the right way to understand it. He just hopes this isn't just a temporary whim. On the other hand, he was also happy. The fact that his son had changed gave him strength. Something like hope had emerged. A dreamlike desire to raise his changed son and the Biok Sword clan well again. Anyway, I understand your intention. Biok Dojin pocketed the jewelry box. Thank you for understanding. Biok Dojin had no intention of selling it. He only took it because he was worried his wife might sell it if he left it with her. He intends to resolve this matter with his own strength somehow. Don't worry too much, dear. Lim Yiwa smiled and took her husband's hand. I'm not worried. Since living with you, I've never once worried about anything. I was listening to their conversation from outside. It wasn't that I intended to eavesdrop. I had come to apologize for the earlier incident and happened to overhear their conversation. This might sound a bit odd, but I thought Mother was quite adorable. Though she acts so rough and manly on the outside, when alone with Father, she shows the appearance of a delicate woman. I looked up at the sky. At first, I thought I had reincarnated for my own sake, then I wondered if it was for this Bayok Aridan fellow, but listening to these two talk today, I wondered if perhaps heaven had me reincarnate for this couple's sake. But can I do it? Me, who has lived a lifetime without ever feeling family affection. Me, with such a nasty temperament that I can't sleep at night unless I take tenfold revenge on anyone who wrongs me. Click! Mother opened the door and came out, startled to see me. Dan? Why didn't you come in if you were here? As I entered, I started with the conclusion of what I wanted to say. Don't sell that. It won't help even if you do. Did you hear? Yes. I didn't intentionally eavesdrop, so please forgive me. It's all right. But what do you mean it won't help even if we sell it? I mean it won't help even if we pay back the money. What do you mean? Because he's not the kind of person who will let this go just because we pay back the money. I looked at Father and asked, am I wrong? Have I misjudged faction leader Yang? I saw the resentment in Yang Jiaqiu's eyes before he left. That murderous intent, full of desire to kill the opponent, is something I've seen countless times when dealing with villains in my previous life. The brief silence that followed was already answering for them. This Father will resolve this matter, so you take your mother and stay with your uncle for a while. As far as I know, Mother's younger brother lived in Anhui, far from here. Is this to protect Mother and me? Even Father sensed that he might seek revenge even if we pay back the money. Do you intend to fight them? You don't need to know. Of course I need to know. Given Bayok Aridan's past behavior, these words might sound truly detestable, but isn't this our family matter? At my words, Mother's face brightened. If parents are this happy over a single word, what was Bayok Aridan so dissatisfied with? I said this Father will handle it. Though I confirmed that Father was a strong person, leaving it to this good-natured and upright Father seemed too risky given how rotten the other side's character was. Please let me help resolve this too. How can you only think of yourself? Is your mother's safety not important? If something happens to Father, Mother will be unhappy anyway. What insolent words! Father was angry, but Mother smiled. You're wrong. It won't just be unhappiness, it would be 100, 1,000 times more miserable than dying with family. Mother looked at Father and said, after living with me for so long, you still don't know me. Father let out a light sigh. Why wouldn't he know? Father probably knew better than anyone that Mother wouldn't leave in this situation. Perhaps originally, he would have tried to persuade Mother that she needed to save my life. But because I unexpectedly took an active stance, he couldn't persuade Mother to leave. A dangerous situation could arise. Mother rolled up her sleeves. It's been a while since things were this exciting. A smile formed on my lips without realizing. Earlier in their conversation she was the image of a devoted wife, but at times like this, she's as bold as any man. Mother turned to me and said, what about you? I'm excited too. Right. It's a shame to say this to Mother, but no exciting events will happen. Because I'll resolve this matter before that. I have no intention of letting such trash run wild in this space where these two are. I'll go up to the mountains for a few days to train. I'll take Guangdu with me, so don't worry. All right, be careful. Father and Mother readily agreed. In the current situation, they should have been pushing me out the door to send me far away. After leaving the room, I immediately went to find Guangdu. What? What did you just say? It's somehow enjoyable to say these things to Guangdu with his eyes wide open. I said you have to come with me to the Yan Minor faction. This is why I get responses like this right away. Do you hate me that much? Why are you trying to take me to such a dangerous place? I have two answers. One you'll like to hear and one you won't. Which do you want to hear first? The beating comes first, right? Tell me the one I won't like first. Because this happened because of you. Guangdu hung his head. He seems unable to deny it. Now tell me the one I'll like. Because you're the only person I can trust. Guangdu let out a deep sigh. How sad. Your narrow and barren human relationships. Contrary to his words, a smile formed on his lips. He seems pleased to hear that he's the only person I can trust. What a simple fellow. But why are we going? An errand for the clan head? Right? We're just going to deliver a letter or something, right? Right. If it makes you feel better to think that way, go ahead. Does that mean? We caused this, so we should resolve it. Good heavens. Do you have a plan? We'll make one as we go. Just where and how does one have to get hurt to become this positive? You can become like that too. There will be plenty of guys wanting to beat you up when we get there. Is it because my body is young? Or is it a reaction against the suffocating formalities I lived with in my previous life? Jokes and pranks I never used to make come out naturally. Or it might be because of this Guangdu I felt good when talking with him. Anyway, my heart has become young too. Hurry and get ready. Let's go. There's a reason I'm taking Guangdu. I'm going to make a decision this time. Whether to just let him sweep the courtyard, or to invest in him and take him all the way. I don't know which life would be better for him. I'm just going to follow where fate leads. Chapter 11, The Young Miner Faction, 5. I'll kill him. I'll tear his body to shreds and feed it to the pigs. I'll flay his skin and throw it in a salt barrel. I'll cut open his belly. The person spewing these vicious curses non-stop was Yang Jiagang. Though his pronunciation was impaired due to his badly broken teeth, he continued to pour out endless resentment and maledictions. I'll break every joint in his body. He'll be begging and whimpering. Yang Jiagang abandoned himself to rage, as if he had given up all hope. The maid attending to him beside him didn't dare to breathe loudly. It wasn't because of the pungent medicinal scent emanating from the bandages tightly wrapped around his limbs. Nor was it due to those terrible curses and imprecations. There was a rumor that the previous maid who had attended to Yang Jiagang had her throat ripped out and killed by him. Her corpse was said to have been secretly disposed of by the estate's guards. She too would die if she made even the slightest mistake. No, even without a mistake, she would die the moment she irritated Yang Jiagang's eyes. She was terrified. She feared that these curses and imprecations would be directed at her, accompanied by the words, "You crazy bitch. Are you looking down on me too?" Fortunately, before that could happen, Yang Jiaqiol entered. "Leave us." "Yes, sir." At the door, the maid prayed fervently. Please, let Yang Jiagang be dead when she returned. But that wouldn't happen. A skilled physician was treating him with the finest medicines, after all. Yang Jiagang looked up at Yang Jiaqiol with sorrowful eyes. "Father." However, the eyes looking down at his son were colder than ever. "You foolish boy. To think you'd be defeated by such a lowly bastard." Yang Jiagang choked up for a moment. That bastard. He was about to say that the opponent was much stronger than expected, but he quickly closed his mouth. Anything he said now would sound like an excuse. Please kill Biok Ridan. And the bitch who bore him too. No, just wipe out the entire Biok clan sword manor. In normal circumstances, this would be the moment to scold one's son. But would the behavior shown at the Biok clan sword manor earlier change just because they had returned home? That's the plan. He couldn't forget the look in Biok Dojan's eyes as he dismissed him that day. And it happened in front of all his subordinates. How dare he disrespect me? Contempt, more than any other malice, is not easily forgotten. The likes of him. Not even among the top 10 in Shandong. Even if Yang Jiagang hadn't begged, he would have taken the initiative to kill them. Even if he couldn't collect the money, he would collect their lives. Sensing his father's anger, Yang Jiagang exclaimed excitedly. Send the main branch's warriors right away and sweep them away in one fell swoop. You fool. They'll be prepared for that, and our main branch would suffer too many casualties. Above all, there was no justification to attack them. Starting a war over children's squabbles? Aside from criticism, it could become a matter of public concern in the martial world. No matter how angry he was, he still had that much sense left. That's why I called for someone. Yang Jiagang's expression brightened as he guessed who it might be. You called for the bloodhound. Yang Jiaiqiul nodded. Like the anger of a petty man unaware he had already been devoured, his smile reeked of a base bloodthirst. They must pay the price for crossing me. Guangdu and I were in a rattling carriage. We were heading towards Dongping, where the Yang Minor faction was located. We could have traveled faster on horseback, but we rented a carriage for Guangdu, who wasn't yet accustomed to riding. Fortunately, being a few hours late wasn't a major concern in this situation. Thud 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 thud. The scenery outside the window was passing by quickly. It had been about 20 days since my reincarnation, but there was still no news about my death. I even checked to see if I had been reincarnated in a different era. But that wasn't the case. I had been reincarnated on the exact day I died. Considering the importance of the Alliance leader's death, it was understandable so far. It would be a problem if the announcement was delayed beyond a month, 2 months, or 3 months. Do you perhaps have some hidden money stashed away? Was I that kind of person? Saving up about 20,000 Niang on the battlefield. Guangdu sighed. Of course not. Then I don't have any. Someone might ask, shouldn't someone who's lived as an alliance leader for over 30 years have at least a few tens of thousands of Niang? Or, shouldn't they have at least one secret account in the Continental Bank? To conclude, I don't. From a young age, I was obsessed only with martial arts. Defeating opponents and growing stronger was my only joy. In the joy of becoming stronger, gold was no more than a pebble to me. After becoming the alliance leader, I didn't particularly need money. Would I buy clothes? Would I buy food? If I needed money for something essential, the Treasury Hall, would bring it to me. If I had decided to hoard money then, I could have amassed not just a few 10,000 Niang, but hundreds of thousands. But I didn't. Rather, I felt indebted to the martial righteous alliance. Living as the alliance leader, there was an enormous investment in me. Just the elixirs I consumed were worth an incalculable amount of money. Of course, at the time, it was a strategic decision by the Alliance to help me defeat the 13 Dark Paths Alliance and the Bloodheaven's divine cult. Whatever the reason, thanks to that, I was able to attain the incredible internal energy of 4 Gapja, 1 Gapja equals 60 years. I thought that was enough. By the way, what book have you been reading so intently? He seemed curious about the book I had been reading since we boarded the carriage. I lifted the book I was holding to show him the cover. The White Moon Sword Arts, 2. Gasp! Guangdu, startled, whispered. Isn't this the master's exclusive martial art? I also lowered my voice and asked. That's right. But why are we suddenly whispering? Because it's a precious martial art. What if the coachman outside hears? Don't you think this actually makes us look more suspicious? Ah. This time, Guangdu spoke loud enough for the coachman to hear. Ha ha, the White Moon Sword Arts is nothing special, you know. I'm going to tell father everything. Oh, why are you being like this, young master? The White Moon Sword Arts is the most excellent sword technique in the world. Going back and forth like this will really make us look suspicious. What am I supposed to do? My honest opinion about the White Moon Sword Arts is this. Not bad. I'm certainly not dismissing the White Moon Sword Arts. It's just that my level of martial arts is exceptionally high. If I were to evaluate it, it would be considered a mid to high level martial art, but the reason I'm trying to learn this family technique is to conceal my original divine martial arts. But is it okay to just carry around something so precious like this? It's a handwritten copy. Father keeps the original separately. No, that's not what I meant. What if someone steals this manual and learns it? Yes, that's exactly it. Without knowing the unique mental cultivation method for using the White Moon Sword Arts, this alone is useless. Ah, I see. When I received the handwritten copy from Father, saying I would read it again while practicing, I also read the mental cultivation manual once. Of course, it was just an excuse to read it properly. With that one reading, I was able to memorize all the verses of the mental cultivation manual. Not only had my memory become abnormally good, but the content itself wasn't that difficult. Originally, using 2 mental cultivation methods is taboo. If done incorrectly, one could fall into chi deviation. Of course, that applies to ordinary martial artists, and it doesn't apply to me. Unless it's an extremely advanced mental cultivation method comparable to my heavenly martial heart guarding technique, I could easily learn and use a mental cultivation method needed for the White Moon Sword Arts. Anyway, for the time being, I plan to use the White Moon sword arts when others are watching. It's strange to see the young master reading something. The only reading in the young master's life was the menu at taverns and the attendance sheets of courtesans. I suddenly asked, peering over the manual. Do you want to learn martial arts? Guangdu flinched. No. Your answer was a bit slow. No, it's not. What martial arts for someone like me? What's wrong with someone like you? Even a guy like Yang Jiagang learns martial arts. Well, he was born into a good family. He probably had good masters since childhood. The most important thing in becoming a martial artist is neither family nor master. After a brief pause, Guangdu asked. Then what's important? When I withheld my answer, he started to find the answer himself. Innate talent? Physique? Or is it something like willpower? Ah, it's effort, right? That's it, right. There's something more important. So what is it? Fate. What kind of fate? The fate with the martial world. Guangdu's eyes widened. He blinked a few times, then pouted. Come on, what's that? If you don't want to tell me, just say so. Guangdu grumbled that I had asked a question without an answer in the first place, but I was sincere. I believe that the most important thing for someone who wants to become a martial artist is fate. Without a connection to the martial world, one dies early. If there's no good fate, there should at least be an ill fate. If you plunge in without either, you'll live like a bystander or meet an unintended end. Guangdu, who had been looking at the scenery outside the carriage, asked after a while. How do you know if you have a fate? Beyond the rapidly passing scenery, a rouge-colored sunset was spreading. I don't know either. Chapter 12, Where My Sword Points, 1. That night, we stayed at an inn half a day's journey from Dongping. Since our destination was not far, we sent back the carriage we had rented. Guangdu was about to get 2 rooms, one large and one small, when I interrupted. Just get us 1 room. Startled, Guangdu quickly said. Ha ha, I can sleep at the table over there. I prepared a thick cotton garment just in case. You usually go along with all sorts of jokes, why are you so stiff about this? Pardon? You idiot. Do you think I get just 1 room to make you sleep outside in this cold? Then, you don't mean. I mean we'll sleep in the same room. You know, the room with 2 beds? Why waste money on 2 rooms? What, do you snore a lot? I don't, but still, how can I share a room with you, young master? Guangdu was visibly flustered. Why? Don't want to sleep with trash. How can you say that? It's disrespectful, that's why. Enough. Give us 1 room, please. With 2 beds. After getting just 1 room, instead of going up to the 2nd floor where the guest rooms were, we sat at a table to the side. Let's have a drink before we go up. With me? Guangdu stared at me blankly. Who else is here? Guangdu's voice trembled as much as his quivering eyes. This is a first. Sitting here drinking with you, young master. Not to mention sleeping in the same room. I've repeated this many times before, but I can't help saying it again this time. Bayok Aridan is truly an idiot. We ordered drinks and food and sat facing each other. He was as stiff as when we were getting the room. Since we usually exchange all sorts of jokes, I feel even more sorry. Of course, it's not my fault, but since I'm Bayok Aridan now, I suppose I should feel sorry. Here, have a drink. As I tried to pour him a drink, Guangdu panicked. I'll pour for you first. It's fine. You drink first. Young master. You're older than me. So drink first. In fact, I'm several times older than him, but that's beside the point. Isn't the world one family? Drink. Didn't you say that was nonsense? I can't. After declining several times, Guangdu reluctantly accepted the drink. Ah, this isn't right. A servant will get spoiled. All right. I'll accept just this once. As a memento. I'll never forget this. Looking at his cup with a touched expression, Guangdu suddenly seemed to realize something. I see. I understand now. You're taking me somewhere to kill me, right? That's why you're being so nice? They say even cows are fed well the day before slaughter. Right. With this jest, the tense atmosphere began to loosen. He drank quite well. According to him, he once drank more than 10 bottles by himself, but that seemed like an exaggeration. As for me, I didn't know my exact alcohol tolerance. I had never been properly drunk before. Usually, assassination or poisoning attempts target drinking occasions. When drunk, one's body and mind naturally become loose. Even at drinking occasions I couldn't avoid, I had made it a habit to use the heavenly martial heart guarding technique to expel the alcohol from my body. But tonight, I drank comfortably. I was getting tipsy. The feeling of being drunk wasn't bad. When was the last time I drank so comfortably like this? Was this the first time? By the way, young master, I was too flustered to ask then about your martial arts. What happened? How did you defeat that guy so easily? Haven't I been training lately? Just for 10 days. 10 days is enough to deal with that trash. Guangdu looked me up and down, from my face to my feet under the table. No matter how I look at you, you're still our young master. How did you change so much? I guess I'm a late bloomer. I'm not asking for a great vessel. Just one that won't break, right? Guangdu was also slightly tipsy. It won't break. Promise me. Promise you won't suddenly go back to how you were before. Promise. Why is a verbal promise so important? It's important to me. I need to hear it. All right, I promise. Only then did Guangdu let out a sigh of relief, and we continued our conversation. I've been hiding my martial arts. I'm much stronger than you think. Since I can't tell him the truth anyway, it's better for him to understand it this way. Why? To survive long in the martial world, you need to hide 3/10 of your skill. Then, did you act like a good-for-nothing on purpose? No, not that. The moment I got hit by Miss Song, I realized I couldn't live like that anymore. I matured, as if by magic. He'll have to believe it. Because I changed from that moment on. Among the many strange things that happen in the world, being reborn after getting beaten by a woman is something he can surely accept. Miss Song is your benefactor then. You could say that. Speaking of which, don't let Miss Song go. What broken engagement? You should cling to her trouser leg if you have to. What do you like so much about Miss Song? She's pretty, isn't she? What else do you need? Male-female relationships are simple. It's when you complicate them that problems arise. Smiling, I tried to refill his cup, but he quickly snatched the bottle away. I told you, if you're too nice to a servant, they'll get spoiled. It's okay if you get a little spoiled. You. Guangdu's cheeks, already flushed from drinking, turned even redder. You're buying the drinks, right? Is that what you say in this touching moment? No money. Squeeze blood from a stone, why don't you? But contrary to his words, Guangdu emptied his cup in one go and said boldly. Fine. I'll buy today. I'll use the money I've been hiding away. Another bottle here. Don't do that. Guangdu and I drank late into the night. This was the first time in my life I had gotten drunk so pleasantly. The next day, we arrived at Dongping, where the young miner faction was located. The first thing we did was find the largest inn in the village. Wouldn't it be better to go to a smaller inn to avoid attention? That would attract more attention. Really? If you can't hide completely in a dark cloud, it's better to be under the sun. Only after we entered the largest inn in Dongping did Guangdu exclaim in admiration. You're right, young master. The massive hall was bustling with guests and servants. There were dozens of tables, and it seemed there were easily 100 guests. Someone could die in that corner and no one would notice. That might actually be happening right now. The martial world is scary. Guangdu brings up the martial world again. I had noticed a change in Guangdu's heart. Whether it was because of Yang Jiagang's recent rampage, or because of my change, Guangdu had clearly developed a longing for the martial world. Suddenly, I remembered the conversation I had with Song Warin. Do people change easily? There's nothing that changes as easily as people. Here too, we got just one room, then came down to the first floor to eat. While eating, I listened for any news about the young miner faction. But even the fact that Yang Jiagang was injured hadn't been made public. Usually, such news would spread one way or another. There were 20 guards from the young miner faction that day. The fact that there was absolutely no rumor meant that young Jiaiqiul had thoroughly silenced everyone. What do you plan to do now? We need to find out what kind of plan he's cooking up. How? Since nothing has been revealed externally, we need to find out through an insider. Then Guangdu said something unexpected. Would you let me handle that task? Though it came out abruptly without hesitation, I could tell it wasn't said impulsively. He might have been considering this since we were in the carriage. Why did you think of that? I'm not sure of the reason myself. I just want to try it. It could be dangerous. If you get caught, you might be tortured. Beaten, branded with hot irons. They might even saw off your fingers. It's okay. I'll spill everything before they torture me. I'll tell them you're here and that you ordered everything. You must spill. That's real wise loyalty. I was joking. But is there such a thing as wise loyalty? There is. The adjective that usually accompanies the highest form of loyalty is willing to die for. But that's not the kind of loyalty I want from Guangdu. Isn't that betrayal? At least for now, it's wise loyalty. It's complicated. Anyway, I won't regret it. Leave it to me. Sensing that Guangdu's fate was stirring, my deliberation wasn't long. All right. You go find out. Once I gave permission, Guangdu took a deep breath. This must be the biggest adventure of his life. From now on, your role is very important. I think my role has been important since the moment you woke up. Ha ha. I admit it. If Guangdu hadn't existed, could I have adapted to being Byok Ridan so easily? I'll give my life. I will. I've already spent all my emergency funds on alcohol anyway. To think we drank 5 bottles of that expensive wine. You ordered the last 2 bottles. You should have stopped me. Should I stop you now? Then Guangdu answered seriously. No. You were just as resolute then. Ha ha. Well, I'll be going now. I gave him some money to use when needed. It was a kind of war fund. After walking a few steps, Guangdu came back and whispered. You'll follow me quietly and watch over me, right? You'll watch over me from where I can't see, right? Right. If that makes you feel better, think that way. I really intend to leave this task entirely to Guangdu whether he lives or dies. Guangdu should be able to read that resolve in my eyes. Sure enough, his lips pouted. You're buying the drinks when I get back. Guangdu left the inn. Why did I allow him to do such a potentially dangerous task, you ask? I remember the moment I first saw Guangdu, that moment when he walked steadily towards the reincarnated me and sat down beside me. I believe that my connection with Guangdu isn't so weak that it would be severed by a task like this. Only then will Guangdu's connection with the martial world continue. So, you better succeed.